It is the 13th of May, 2025. And yeah, so I just want to correct anything that I'm wrong with, or that I share that's interesting, that comes out to be not what it is. I like to immediately correct it. And so we have here Dan Dix. He's freaking awesome. I wish he was in our cabinet or working with government, but proof that Coke versus KLEENEX gate is a distraction from the real issues happening behind the scenes. And so he is so freaking great. And so I'm just going to share this video with people. I could talk about so many other things with what Kash Patel is talking about, you know, having conversations with Senator John Kennedy, and his discussions about what happened to Epstein. Did he in fact hang himself or not? And but anyways, I think a lot of stuff is going to get uncovered. It's just unfortunate that it is like a bit of truth and that's surrounded by a lot of misinformation. And I'm saying that even RFK Jr. is doing the same thing, and I'm not sure why. Well, I know why. There's a lot of people from within their House of Representatives, their Congress, whatever you want to call it, and the department and affiliates that get heavy funding and donations and sponsorships, etc., from big pharma, from other organizations that are supranational in nature, and they absolutely do not help anyone from within the countries. And I will reiterate that. And the list has been out for many years regarding Epstein, and we're not alleging or claiming that everyone on that list is a, whatever you want to call it, a graper at all. So possibility of people being involved in financial crimes, people possibly just doing things that they don't want their wives or husbands or whatever to know about, or other people. There's so many different reasons why, but just to look into it, like that's the first step, right? So when you have the possibility that Justin Trudeau and Sophie Trudeau was on the list, and possible others from Canada that were in key positions, right? So we're talking about people that are in key leadership positions that just, I mean, if this is stuff that they're possibly involved in, it needs to be looked into. And so I'm hoping that the Canadian government does start looking into that more. And then I do also hope that the cabinet that's picked are people that are new, that are good at these jobs, and actually listen to people and uncover and expose a lot of stuff that has been covered up and buried and lied about for literally 10 years, obviously more than that as well, but I'm just talking about specific people in cabinet right now. But anyways, long story longer. Here we go. Dan Dix, he's so freaking good.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and I just wanted to share with you this post here, sending out thoughts and prayers to all the leftist women out there who are trying to figure out if they're supposed to put an Indian flag or a Pakistan flag in their Facebook bio. You know, with so much confusion surrounding world events and world leaders, I'm honestly not surprised right now that a lot of people are convinced that the leaders of France, Britain, and Germany have just been busted on a train traveling around while doing cocaine. This is one of the examples of the viral videos that are going around right now of the leaders of France, Britain, and Germany meeting on a train and having a bit of an impromptu press conference where the press, it wasn't expected they'd be entering this car, but lo and behold, they did. And people are claiming that, as you see here, Macron appears to have just, hidden a little bag of what they claim to be cocaine. Here is another angle of it. Alex Jones says this cocaine-fueled, nuclear war-loving megalomaniacs on display. And here again is another angle of it where he also apparently grabs this, what some are claiming is apparently some sort of a device that doesn't even make sense, that this is a device that would be used for cocaine use. I mean, if you look closely, guys, it clearly, to me, resembles something much more of a tissue than a bag of cocaine. And honestly, you have to question yourself, if it was coke, why would he do this? You know, just watch this closely, guys. He has it in his right hand right now. He's surrounded by the press in a huge semicircle. He's photos and videos are being taken of him in a massive press circle all around him right now as he's posing for the cameras. And what does he do? He transfers it from one hand to the other. Why would he do that? Why wouldn't he, if it was allegedly this bag of cocaine that he just got caught with, he's already got it in his right hand. Why wouldn't he just pull his right hand around and tuck it in his pocket instead of transferring it from one hand to the other? Well, the reason why, folks, is because it is simply just a tissue and not a bag of cocaine. And that's why we're seeing headlines like this: absurd conspiracy. French media rushes to quash claims Macron, Mertz, and Starmer caught hiding cocaine on a Kiev-bound train. But here's the thing, guys. This whole thing comes just after the European powers threw their weight behind an unconditional 30-day ceasefire. And they threatened Russian leader Vladimir Putin with a massive new sanctions if he did not accept. The leaders of Britain, France, Germany, Poland, and Ukraine are set to start the ceasefire for May 12th. That's today at a meeting in Kiev, during which they held a phone call with the US President Donald Trump. So all of us here together with the US are calling Putin out. If he is serious about peace, then he has a chance to show it, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told the press conference. That's what they were talking about. No more ifs, ands, or buts. No more conditions or delays. That's what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. And we've already heard talk of a Russia-Ukraine peace deal that I reported on back in March of 2022, when the Russian President Vladimir Putin was supposed to be meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to draw up a tentative peace plan that would conclude the war. The deal was supposed to include a ceasefire and a withdrawal of Russian troops if Kiev renounces its ambitions for memberships of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, and they accept limits on its armed forces. Do you think that is going to happen again? Are we going to get a peace deal, ladies and gentlemen? Well, while everybody's bickering and arguing about whether or not this is a bag of cocaine or a tissue, these guys are literally getting prepared for war, guys. So let's not get too distracted. So we're going to talk about all of that and much, much more in this video, guys. But really quickly, just before we do, I'd ask that you check me out here at gogetfunding.com. This is a campaign I've launched because of the annual Bilderberg conference, which is coming up in just 1 month from today in Stockholm, Sweden. Guys, I will be there. Thank you so much to everybody who's contributed so far. I'm halfway to my goal. 34 people have contributed so far. Thank you so much to everybody who has already donated. Guys, if you have yet to contribute to this campaign, please consider making a contribution. Let's get this number up to at least 40 people today. That would be greatly appreciated, guys. So if you want to see me do the kind of coverage you've come to expect at Bilderberg from Press for Truth, please consider making a contribution in that Go Get Funding campaign link below. All right, guys. First of all, it's not like Emmanuel Macron is not the kind of guy to pull off some sort of, secondhand trickery here. Here we see him, while asking for sacrifices from the French people, suddenly realize that he's wearing a very expensive watch. And voila, just like that, the watch disappears. As you see, on the left, you got a watch. On the right, you got no watch. Here's the moment he decides to take it off. Check this out.
Il y a les blocages, et les blocages, il faut pouvoir les lever quand ils empêchent l'activité normale. Et c'est pourquoi,
he's taking off the watch underneath the table.
Yeah, I've shared that one as well. I just wanted to bring up a few points because I'm not a polished podcaster. I don't know what you would call it. I'm just someone that is putting a record out there from my own, I guess you would say, lived experiences and to discuss things. But I'm not polished, like for example, someone like Megyn Kelly, who has decades of experience working with, like on social media and reporting, and being able to kind of polish up, I was saying, like her speech. And so for the Freedom Convoy, because I want to make it clear, so clear, because, and it's out of respect for the people that risked literally everything in order to help Canadians. And so there were agents of change, whatever you want to call that were working really hard behind the scenes, since even before COVID, but especially during COVID. And this is something that the pandemic was declared on the 11th of March of 2020. The Freedom Convoy was, it started at the end of January, again, in like the big moving parts, and it was incredible. And I was saying even before people arrived here over a week before that this is something that I obviously supported, even given like my concerns, I would say, for what had happened in previous protests that involved key specific groups that were being painted as right-wing extremists, supremacists, misogynists, seditionists, terrorists, etc. And we're seen as a burden to our country and our and people. And so, for example, people like Helen Bruce, like before the Freedom Convoy, she was suspended that first weekend or within days of that Freedom Convoy coming into Ottawa. And she was someone that had been sharing information regarding the medical, scientific, and government data from having boots on the ground, lived experiences going through all of this stuff, trying to get this information out for years. And then even the end of November of 2021, it was approved or authorized. I'm talking about the therapeutics for COVID for children, like from the ages of 5 to 11 or whatever. It was authorized, and so there was concerns with that because we still hadn't unpacked a lot of information that had been coming out as the pandemic progressed. And so I'm saying that these people were necessary. I'm not saying that Tamara Leach was duped into doing anything. I'm not saying that she, like, none of that stuff. And I want to make it clear, because if she ever heard any of my videos, I don't want her to take that out of it. I think she's a hero. I absolutely think she absolutely knew the cost and the risk of what she was doing. I think it was necessary. I think she was a hero. I think she was someone that had the assets and the resources in order to make it big and peaceful. And she had been talking to so many different people within the government in order to coordinate efforts. She was getting support from people within government. This was very much a collaboration of people within government knowing that this was necessary, but we wanted it to be peaceful, right? Because it's a lot of people, there's a lot of risk, and there were a lot of people that were on the, I would say, the other end of the extreme, well, not on the other end of the extreme, but there were people that were instigators, disruptors, people that were crisis actors, role players, etc., from within government and outside of government, people that were contracted and also paid protest groups that go all over the world, but especially within North America. So we also see the same similar people that go to these events in order to, again, antagonize people, in order to disrupt it. And sometimes they even pretend or dress as if they're right-wing extremists when they're, like I would say, people that go to the Black Lives Matter protests, the abortion protests, all of the protests, the woke protests, the DEI protests, etc. Again, these are concerted, deliberate efforts. And so I was just hoping that, and just wanting people to be aware. These people knew. Helen knew, obviously. I'm sure Tamara Leach knew. But again, I was trying to get this information out to people like that, because they already knew the costs and the risk, and lives destroyed. And so I was donating to organizations to help assist with the not only the Freedom Convoy itself. I donated to the Freedom Convoy. I was downtown for it. I was coordinating efforts international, like throughout, peacefully, just giving people information, just trying to help, and like so many other people were doing. And then Pat King as well. Like, he is a hero. I think he knew the risks. I think it was necessary, because I think that the more people that came that were grassroots, that were absolutely grassroots, people that were feeling like a sense of hope with the Freedom Convoy, and they took that opportunity to also go and protest, to send a message to the world and to send a message to government that enough is enough. Enough is enough, and peacefully. And people were making sure, again, that other people that were trying to disrupt or exploit and monopolize on whatever you want to call it, on a movement, that it was checked. And so there were so many different, whatever you want to call it, pokers in the fire. Even talking with people that were at the Ottawa Mission. I was talking to the director because I had volunteered at the mission for many years, even before the pandemic was called. And so, anyway, there's so many moving parts, and we were trying to share information about people within the mainstream media that were lying and either using crisis actors or people that they knew were misleading people, or they might have been duped themselves. Like, there was a bit of both of that going on, and it's just frustrating that I'm not able to properly explain that, because anyway, it's just I just wanted to discuss more. And then, because I got a little emotional when I was discussing the Afghanistan pullout, I want to be clear that I didn't deploy during the Afghanistan pullout to assist with that. getting the interpreters and other people that were supporting us on missions for many years to get them to safety. And again, I like these are people and whatever you want to call it, groups that I was working with for several years. And I did, like I was saying, like I had experience in Afghanistan previously. It had been many years, but I had gone pretty much all over the area of operation within Kandahar and city and outer areas. And and then I also, because of the company that I was in, there was someone that I was working closely with within my company that was the one that was coordinating, hiring, and vetting our interpreters for the entire battle group and assets. Huge piece, right? And so there were possibly lists that we could refer to and confirm that people were actually who they were saying they were, and actually making sure that we get the people out that were actually helping us that are on these lists. Because these lists, again, we were getting interpreters that were even utilized before our deployment and then afterwards as well. And there was that piece, that handover piece. And so I had the information, and then the people that were going are people that I had worked with before, or that were important in my life, and I felt like I let them down. So that's the big piece as well, where I just felt like it was just complicated because I wasn't vaccinated. There was that piece, so I couldn't go, and I felt I let people down because of making that choice. And then I felt it was such a friggin' ridiculous choice. And it wasn't their fault, by the way. They had no choice. It was international travel. And so even if they wanted to hire me, so I'm not even blaming them, it was just, I was limited because, again, like they don't control that, right? They don't control that piece. And no one wants to break rules or laws like that. I never wanted to put anyone in that position either. And so even when I have people that were doing security work for Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I've said this before, just to give me credibility, obviously, and I wasn't able to do or even be monopolized on those opportunities because I wasn't vaccinated, and there was discussion about how I can get away from doing that in a gray area, by the way, and I didn't want to do that. I'm like, no, that just defeats the purpose, because if we just like play within the system, then we're still, anyway, it is what it is. And so I made a lot of sacrifices because of the choices I made and the stances I had on things and observations I was making. And so even with the Afghanistan pullout, I'm going to go back to that. People were initially lying and reporting that these drone strikes were targeting enemy insurgents that had, retaliated against Americans and Canadians. And that was not true, right? And so when people are getting information like that, it's important to correct that, right? So I was just letting people know because they were going to help, and just the more information they had, if they didn't already have it, then I thought the better, right? Just that you're not going in an area blind or with misinformation that could possibly make you do things or escalate things that you're getting kind of like shaped into doing. Anyway, and they know the risks. They know the risks. This is what I mean. Like, people already know, for the most part, within like certain communities and circles, the narrative and the script and the plays that want to be played and who's involved in what. And it's just, I'm going on all these tangents, but we need a Nuremberg 2.0. We need people to be held accountable. We need there to be trials. We need people to get charged. We need to get people to get convicted, and in some cases, people to have jail that failed us during COVID. And those would be my questions to people within cabinet if they were working throughout COVID would be, first of all, the nerve to even accept the position, to be honest with you, and even running again. I just thought that was just very, I would say, shameless. And so even Chrystia Freeland, like, I don't think that she will be selected for cabinet or appointed because of the relationship she has and just the distrust that people, that the majority of Canadians have regarding Chrystia Freeland. And so, yeah, anyways, it's a bit of a mess. And I was talking to people as well today about Quebec and the voting trends and how the Bloc has been, for, generally speaking, the option for people that don't want to vote Liberal. And that's screwing up the Conservative voter turnout consistently. And that, which also makes it where it's a struggle in order to get numbers up, right? Like, that's why it's always hard for Conservatives to ever get some kind of a majority. Literally, look at Quebec. It's like the second largest province with population-wise out of Canada, Ontario being first. And the swamp that we have here, again, it's there's been so much betrayal and organizational distrust that, I mean, look at it. Alberta wants to separate now. Not all of Alberta, but like I would say like a large majority of Albertans want to have a referendum. And a lot of people within Alberta, a significant amount, want to separate from Canada because they think that enough is enough. And I understand where they're coming from. It would suck for the rest of Canada, and possibly in the next few years, it would suck for them as well, especially if we had some kind of like a Canadian union, like the European Union, and then there was committees of people that were super nationalists that were just exploiting all the provinces anyways, as part of an oversight committee. It's just so like let's just like walk through things and talk through things and just lay out not just short term but long term ramifications of doing this. And yeah, but I know people that are fairly influential in Alberta, and they're fully on board with separating, and I try to have open discord with them, to try to temper emotions. And it's not even emotional. Like, these people are not coming from an emotional place. They're coming from they're giving facts, and they're right. They're like, look, like how it's been in the last several years, and how even with Quebec interference with energy production, it's been stifling Alberta for many years, and getting a lot of money from them in these equalization payments, and again, not compromising on things. And so it's a bit of a mess. And we're self imploding still within the conservative, whatever you want to call it, group. And it happened in 2017 with Maxime Bernier and Aaron O'Toole. Oh, sorry, Andrew Scheer. And when they had the elections, it was very close, and then the ballots disappeared. So there was not able to have a recount. There was a lot of bitterness and resentment because of that. And then what happened? The PPC developed. What happened with the PPC? They took away votes from the Conservatives, and even myself in 2021, I voted PPC because of people like Aaron O'Toole and Doug Ford and Andrew Scheer, and it had nothing to do with Pierre, nothing to do with him at all. It had everything to do with the people that were in friggin' government at the time representing Conservatives. That sucked, and they did not represent Conservative values. Or the platform, even for that matter. And so, yeah, people might not give Pierre a chance. He's been working and trying to help, I think, for many years as best as he can with the limits and restrictions that he's had. And I don't know. I don't think that people should just like throw him away, just like they're saying they want to do. And then what's the better choice, right? Carney was not the better choice, and so I think that we should have really rallied around the Conservative Party this year, especially just because of this, because of everything that comes with Carney. And yeah, and so we didn't. So it was a disappointment, but again, it was expected, especially given Carney's being a deep state select, in my humble opinion. He was a Bilderberg asset, someone that had gone to multiple different conferences with them, and he's been part of the banking systems and the elite supranationalist organizations like Goldman Sachs and stuff like that in Brookfield for years. And then dealings with Jared Kushner and Trump through that connection. And anyway, and so I don't think he was the best choice. I think he was actually the worst choice, respectfully. I don't know him personally, obviously, but I do say that there are people that worked around him in various capacities that don't have a lot of good things to say about him. And but again, like, that's just like word of mouth, right? Like, it's just it's regarding his mannerisms and his presence, and the fact that he would not want to communicate with people, or there was like no respect for anyone that he didn't see as someone that had power or influence. He's very much an ego-driven narcissist that cares more about power and wealth than he does about his people, and he's consistently showed that. Let me reiterate that. And anyways, I'm going on all these tangents, but I do have to pack because I'm going on a trip. It's an actual vacation. It's not anything other than that. And yeah, it's going to be camping involved and climbing mountains. So I need to make sure I don't forget anything. So I will, on that note, we already know that Macron is corrupted, and Keir Starmer and these clowns. And so on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.